Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
Wow, a lot of Phillies news to get into. The Miami Marlins have an outbreak here in Philadelphia while playing at Citizens Bank Park. The Phillies' 2-game home series against the New York Yankees, both of those games postponed. Now, the Phillies were tested Monday night and got results back Tuesday morning, and it seems like nobody has tested positive when it comes to the Phillies roster. The positive about that is you have a team in the Marlins that are getting hit with this virus at a rapid rate. I mean, it is flying around that team really quickly, and it's good to know that that has not actually turned into the Phillies having an outbreak as well. Now, you can question, has there even been enough time for the positive tests to come out with the Phillies? Has there been enough time for this virus to even be detected in their bodies when they take the test? Only time will tell. I did hear that they will test again before making a decision to take a bus up to New York to play the Yankees. So, a lot to get into. This is definitely eye-opening, not only for baseball, but for the rest of the leagues, for the NFL, who is not having a bubble. And I'll say this, when the fights between the owners and the players were going on, everyone, for the most part, a good majority, blamed the owners. What are they doing? I can't believe it. Figure this out. Nobody wanted to look at the players, and I did look at the players. I looked at both parties, to be fair. I wasn't just criticizing the players. Both parties at fault. Same here. Because if you remember, the owners, the league, they wanted to do a bubble. They put up hub cities for these players, and they said no. They said no. They didn't want to do the hub cities. They didn't want to do some sort of bubble because they wouldn't be able to leave. They wouldn't be able to see family. And look, I totally understand that. I'm not saying you have to choose baseball over your family. But the safest way for sports to be played, as you're seeing with the NHL, who are doing phenomenal when it comes to negative tests, as you see with the NBA, who is doing phenomenal when it comes to negative tests, they had the opportunity. This was a risk to do it without a bubble. And it is clearly a problem right now as you have the Miami Marlins, who they're in a hot spot. They're testing positive at this rapid rate, and it's an issue. Now, the league throughout certain areas, Arizona and some other hot spots as well. But look, the NBA right now is in a bubble in Orlando. Orlando and Florida, they're having a huge problem, a huge spike at the moment. So if you're in a bubbled environment, it doesn't matter what's happening on the outside part of that bubble, because they're going to hold it down and you're stuck in a certain area there. That's just the way I look at it. They offered a bubble, a hub city, and the players didn't want to do it. Well, now this is showing you, hey, maybe you should have done it. That's all. That's all I'm saying. Look, there's a lot more to kind of get into here. Before we do that, this episode of Sports Talk with Broads is sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power. With over 20 years of experience in the industry, they are home to your solar experts in residential and commercial projects. They are dedicated to making sure your project is completed easily and properly. They use high-quality materials and trained professionals to get the job done right. Their program helps eliminate your electric bill completely. So look up their information. Their info is actually in the description, so check them out. I don't think that the league should cancel the season. I think that is a conversation happening between the public right now. Should they cancel? Should they not cancel? They should not cancel. There's plenty of other teams right now that are doing just fine. The Marlins have an outbreak, yes, but how many leagues are in this team? And there's going to be positive tests. There'll be positive tests throughout, here and there. 1, 2 guys. The outbreak is a big part of this because it's so many people. I know it's almost close to 20 people at this point. The last I saw was either 16 or 18, so the number is getting up there for the Miami Marlins. But the whole league, the rest of the league, it's doing fine right now. It's not time to cancel the season. Now, if this continues to happen, if this continues to move forward and hit other teams, and then it spreads so quickly throughout specific organizations, then it's a different conversation. But for right now, I don't think you react and go, hey, we got to shut this thing down. when the NBA did that, we had no knowledge. We still don't have as much knowledge as we should have, or let's just say we're not following the rules as we should, and that's why this is all happening. We don't have as much knowledge as we probably could have at this time, but regardless, people aren't paying attention and doing what they need to do and following the protocols, and that's why we're in the dilemma that we are in right now. And it's interesting I bring that up because I was listening to the Michael Kay show. He's the play-by-play broadcaster for the New York Yankees, and he said he was talking to an agent, and the agent was like, yeah, there's guys who just flat out don't care. They're not following the rules. They're not wearing a mask. And how do you stop those type of people? I guess where I can look at the MLB and say, you got to do a better job. You got to implement rules. You got to implement some sort of system where if these players do break the rules, you're out. You're done. You're not playing for a little bit of time. You got to find a way to hold these players accountable. Sadly, you got to treat them like they're 5 years old. Look at what the NBA did to Lou Will. Look at what the NBA did to Rashawn Holmes. If they cross that bubble line, get your ass in quarantine. And you got to think that the MLB needs to implement that sort of discipline or else this isn't going to work because guys are doing their own thing. The thing is, though, it's a lot easier to do that in a bubbled environment than it is when these players go back and go to their homes and then they come back to the ballpark each day. It's hard to say, hey, you're not allowed to leave and make sure that they didn't leave their place, right? So it's a lot, really. It's not easy, but I don't like how the players were texting. These Miami Marlins players were texting on Sunday to see if they wanted to play. Hey, do you guys want to play? They had a meeting. They had a meeting, a group meeting, and they said, hey, do you want to play? Oh, yeah. Well, you can't put it in the players' hands. Of course they all want to play. And if you have these people out there who claim it's not real, this is fake, this is all a fluky thing, well, they're all going to want to play because they're not actually assessing that this is real. You can't put it in the players' hands, and that's where I think the MLB needed to step in. So both parties at fault here. Just like with what happened to the negotiations, both parties at fault. But it looks like that they will be able to move forward. The Phillies, at least the Phillies will be able to move forward as long as these next set of tests say that they are negative. This is all a work in progress, right? And other leagues are going to be taking things out of this, and the MLB itself, they're learning from this. Now, if this happens later on, they can assess this situation and have more knowledge of how to handle it. And because it happens here after the first weekend, if it happens again maybe 3 weeks down the road, they can handle this. Or maybe they get to the point where there isn't an outbreak because they stopped it sooner. That's the one thing I can criticize the most is, not stopping it sooner. Once you heard that 4 or 6 players tested positive, there's no game on Sunday. There's no game on Sunday, and then that could stop the spread. Hopefully, that could stop the spread, and it doesn't get to the point that it did now where it is just an unbelievable amount of people in that Miami Marlins team. They're going to have to throw together a group of unrestricted free agents and some AAA guys to get out on the field because the players who play against them, the teams that play against them, what, do they get the automatic win or do they have to play a game? Because you got to get all these teams to play 60 games. You can't have a team play 45 and then what happens with the division? Does it come down to some sort of win percentage? Well, that's not fair at all because teams played more games than them. It's not something that I think is in play, not having teams all play the same amount of games. So you're going to have to find a way to get worse players out there, an independent type team out there to play for the Miami Marlins and see what happens. You have to have them play the games or it's an automatic forfeit and then whoever's on the roster, whoever's on the schedule against the Marlins get the automatic win. It is what it is. I want to talk more than just what's happening with Miami and what's happening with the Phillies at this very moment. Although it's such a strong situation and it's such an important thing that's happening, it's hard to get into Phillies baseball right now because it's so up in the air. Are they playing? Are they not playing? And it sucks because I've been waking up every day thinking, yes, let's go. We have Phillies baseball, and then it was just taken from me the last 2 days. And, I want everybody to be safe. Let me be clear. I want everybody to be safe. That is way more important than myself being able to enjoy Phillies baseball. But I do think that there's a way for it to be both. I do think it's a way. day. I'm hearing Bob Nightingale tweet about how Anthony Rizzo was a cancer survivor and they might force players to wear a mask when they're on first base next to Anthony Rizzo. Why not make everybody wear masks? Didi Gregorius is hitting bombs with the mask on. Is that the new thing? Make sure everyone's wearing masks. Because let's be real, watching these games, these players are just celebrating normally. They're high-fiving, they're taking each other's helmets off, they're doing their thing, they're touching the ball. Like, it doesn't seem like the protocols that were in play is even being forced. And that's where you got to look at the MLB and say you got to do better at disciplining. You got to make sure they're following the rules. There's no reason to have these rules and then not do anything about it. But keep in mind, the players all agreed to this. Remember you heard Snell talk about how I want to make sure I'm safe and I'm putting myself at risk, and he was talking about that. Just stop with that crap. It was all about the money, because once the money was figured out, all these players were ready to rock and roll. It didn't seem like these safety protocols were bothering them that much to go back and forth on. As soon as the money was figured out, they were playing baseball again. There were a couple guys that opted out. But for the most part, come on now. As soon as the money was figured out, you were good. So it didn't seem like the safety protocols were that big of a deal for these players. They didn't counter on these protocols. They were all good. So shame on them as well, because clearly it's very fluky. But anyway, I do want to talk about baseball. I actually have some phone calls as well. I took some phone calls of reactions over the weekend, and we will listen to those and react as well. The phone number to call in, there's a 24/7 anytime hotline to call in to Sports Talk with Broads. 856-442-9805 is the phone number. You can leave a message whenever you like, and I will react to these calls. But before that, I want to talk about two things. One, there's a starting pitcher out there, or a long reliever, possibly, depending on where this goes, that was released by the Braves, DFA'd by the Braves. Is there a chance the Phillies go out on a limb and see if it works? Not only that, Joe Girardi's decision-making this weekend, the more and more I thought about it, some odd calls by Joe. I mean, just flat-out odd calls. And it took me a couple days to really analyze it, because I think I was just so excited for baseball to be back. I was so pumped up to see the Phillies on the field. And at the time, I did question, we're going with that guy? But it didn't really hit me because I was excited and all that, all the emotions running high. The more and more I thought about the weekend, losing 2 or 3 of the Marlins, thinking, really, Joe? Did Joe Girardi make that decision? So we'll start there before we get into the pitcher. The two that really are odd. Putting in Rosso after Aaron Nola. I get that there's going to be times where you have to see what you have, right? When you're a new manager and you got all these young guns, young guns, as if they're these studs in the making. No, the slop. When you have a bunch of slop in the bullpen, but you don't know exactly what you have, you give them opportunities. I just think game 1, after Aaron Nola gets yanked, giving up an 0-2 bomb to Jesus Aguilar, you don't throw in Rosso, who's clearly overwhelmed, has no experience in the league, and it showed. You have veteran guys in the bullpen that you can rely on in that situation. And I questioned, is Joe Girardi a puppet of analytics? When Gabe Kapler was here, we discussed how he didn't really do much. He was given the card, the lineup card. He was given decisions based off analytics. He was just doing what he was told. And when Joe Girardi was brought here, we thought that he would have more freedom. He would have more of an opportunity to be himself as a manager. But when someone like Rosso comes in, I question, is this an analytical move? Is analytics saying to do this and he's just doing what the numbers say? Is he just doing what the front office wants him to do when it comes to this analytical approach? Because I don't know how he brings Rosso in on that moment. Now let's go to game 3. Vince Velasquez, 3 innings deep, right? 60 pitches. He gave up the lead in the second inning. They had a 4-0 lead. He had a good first. He had a good third. Keep in mind, he had a good third. And in the 4th inning, here comes Cole Irvin. What told Joe Girardi to put in Cole Irvin? Is this Joe Girardi making a bad decision, 2 bad decisions, or is he just being told what to do? It seems uncharacteristic for it to be this bad, and it seems Gabe Kapler-ish. Really, it does. It seemed Gabe Kapler-ish to the point where it's the same move. So is something up top telling these managers what to do, and that's why you're getting this? Or is Joe Girardi simply giving these guys the opportunity, at least early on, to get a chance? I mean, with the lineup card on Sunday, Phil Gosselin hits 2 bombs in the game before, and then he's not in the lineup afterwards. And then you hear the argument, well, if you get a lefty off the bench at one point who's pitching, maybe you put Phil Gosselin in there and he could be your late game savior. Don't sell me that crap. Seriously, don't. That's not what was happening. So I just wonder if Joe Girardi has more say or less say than we thought coming into the season, or is this Joe Girardi just having some questionable calls throughout his first weekend with the Philadelphia Phillies? I don't know. But if Gabe Kapler made those moves, we're freaking out. We are pissed off. And I will say, I think both can be true when it comes to not having enough talent and Gabe Kapler being a bad manager. I'm not a fan of Gabe Kapler's work, but I know the roster wasn't constructed well enough to perform and to compete literally last season. So I don't think they stunk because of Gabe Kapler. I think they stunk because they stunk. I always put more pressure on players than anybody else when it comes to an organization. When it comes to pro sports, it's on the players more so than anyone else. But both can be true. Gabe Kapler can be someone I don't like as a manager, and the roster not be well or constructed well at the same time. So that's how I see that whole situation play out. Let's get to the pitcher. Folty of the Braves, DFA'd. Now, his velocity has clearly dropped. We're talking 91 miles per hour, and there is something off right now. And if you remember back in 2018, you're talking about a sub-3 ERA, and he's played some meaningful games for the Braves over the last couple seasons, big-time moments, so he has been a factor. You take a damn shot. You pick up the phone. Vince Velasquez, Nick Pivetta, Zach Eflin, you just don't know. They're all question marks right now. Even Spencer Howard. Can't wait for him to come up, but he's a question mark right now as well. Sign him. I mean, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but you gotta make the most of this chance. You gotta take the risk. The risks were made last year with Drew Smiley and Jason Vargas. If you're gonna take chances on those guys, take a chance on Folty. And if it doesn't work really as a starter, what's wrong with the middle relief guy? The thing is, I think there'll be other teams out there that give him a chance in the starting rotation to the point where if the Phillies said, hey, you want to be a middle relief guy, I really doubt he comes to the Phillies. He's going to have multiple options without a doubt. You got to find a way to get Folty here and take a chance. You got to find a way. So he was DFA'd. You got to find a way to get him here to give him a chance. Pick up that phone, call whoever you need to call, and get an opportunity for Folty to sneak into this starting rotation. How could it hurt? You just got 3 damn innings out of Vince Velasquez. Like, I would have put, going back to Gabe real quick, I would have put Vince Velasquez back out in the 4th. You got to eat up as many innings as you can. And these were things rolling through my head. These were thoughts rolling through my head as they happened throughout the games. But I gave Joe the benefit of the doubt. I really did. I gave Joe the benefit of the doubt, but I couldn't get it out of my mind. Last couple days, driving to the station, driving home from the radio station, just thinking, what was he doing? And I did give him the benefit of the doubt. I said, this team stinks. The bullpen stinks. So you're going to put out there, they all stink. That's what I said, and it's not false. But they were questionable. I don't think it was a good weekend for Joe Girardi by any means. Outside of losing the games, I'm talking. I'm basing this just off of certain decision-making things that he did. You ready to react? Let's react. Reacting's fun. We had some good calls. So the way this worked is I grabbed a bunch from just the weekend. So some could be from game 1, some could be from game 2, some could be from game 3. I just grabbed a bunch as I'm trying to untangle the old earphones here. All right, let's do this.
I don't want to hear that I don't want to hear that it was because of runners in scoring position. I know that was unacceptable, but get this. 6 runs should easily win your ball game. Vince Velasquez needs to go. I don't care how many other people want to defend him. I heard too much of that. Thank God that Spencer Howard's coming up soon. That's all I got to say.
Let's go. Pissed off, fired up. I love it. I love hearing that passion when it comes to the Phillies. Even if it's a brutal thing like Vinny V, to hear the passion. Here's the thing, we haven't heard sports in 4.5 months, right? Just to hear the frustration. I can't believe I'm actually getting some sort of gain from this, but I just hearing people passionate about real live sporting events puts a smile on my face, even though it's a negative. Not wrong, though. Vinny V, the experiment's over. I can't believe I got sucked in. 6 runs is good enough to score, but at the same time, you have bases loaded 3 times late in the baseball game. You gotta find a way to knock runs in, right? So, you're right. In theory, in a bubble, 6 runs is enough to score. But I think context matters when you talk about sporting events. And to leave out that there were 3 times bases loaded, you can't, right? So those players have to knock it in. Gene Segura, JT, Didi, knock in those runs. You have to. You have to. That's your job. You have to knock those runs in.
So, after the end of this 3-game series, what have we learned? We've learned again that our general manager is a total piece of shit. You cannot continue to justify Vince Velasquez as being a major league pitcher. I don't care what they have to do to get Spencer Howard up here. It has to happen. You cannot justify that slop that they call a bullpen in a game now that's bullpen dominating. You can't roll Reggie McClain, Cole Irvin, and Nick Pivetta out there and think you're a legitimate threat to make the postseason. And the hitters got to take it as well. Total garbage. Why on a day when the ball is flying out of the park, if you hit the ball hard, are you swinging from your shoe tops to hit the ball 500 feet? That's why the Marlins beat their ass every time out, because they're just better fundamentally. They'll hit a line drive with 2 strikes. They'll put the ball in play.
You're not wrong. The thing is with the Marlins, it's almost like they have nothing to lose to the point where they just swing the bats. They go up there and they swing because what do they have to lose? They just go up there and they swing the damn bat. Unlike Rhys Hoskins, who sits there and he just keeps his bat over his shoulder, and that's it. And he waits to walk, and he waits to walk, and he waits to walk. And I get that if you're a 2-hole hitter, it's not the same as being a 4-hole hitter. But it's doing a disservice to what Rhys Hoskins can do when it comes to his power if he's sitting in that 2-hole. And guess what? JT Realmuto's not a cleanup guy, so hitting him 4th makes no sense. The whole thing is flawed right now when it comes to what Rhys Hoskins is doing in that 2nd hole. But another call just fired up with Vince Velasquez. I literally love it because I'm not going to lie to you, I got sucked in a little bit with that cutter and that changeup against the New York Yankees in the exhibition game, and I got sucked back into reality real quick, and it looks like everybody else did as well.
Yo, bros. I just want to talk about, the Phillies, and I feel like that it's nothing to worry about. We always lose to the Marlins, so can't take it that serious. But yeah, we obviously put the Yankees this next series, and if we can sweep them, that would be ideal. But if we get 2 games out of 3, I would like that too. But it's just nothing to get too worried about. It's only a series, and I think we should beat them sweep them in a series next time. So it's just nothing to get too worried about. And Phillies fans need to chill the crap down. But thank you, bros, and hope you have a good day.
Did he say sweep the Yankees? I don't like the optimism. I don't get that. I think it's very fair to be upset. I think it's fair to be upset. I don't care if they normally lose to the Marlins. I don't care. Beat the Marlins. Beat them. You have to beat them. In a 60-game season, you got to beat the Orioles. You got to beat the Marlins. It's just facts. It's facts. Now, I need to go back and hear if he said they should sweep the Yankees. I don't know if he said sweep the Yankees or sweep the Marlins.
Yeah, we obviously put the Yankees this next series, and if we can sweep them...
Sweep them! Sweep the Yankees! Sweep the Yankees! The hell? No shot!
Hey, what's up, bro? So I'm just calling in from Barrington, New Jersey. I want to talk about the Phillies. Our pitching sucks. ridiculous. I don't know if you're Vince Blank, because I don't even know how he can even live with himself after he gives up 4 runs in the top of the second. That is pathetic. You jump out to a 4-0 lead, then instantly it just flat out. Wait, no, my bad. Wait, yeah, 4-0 lead, and it just vanishes, and then it turns into a embarrassing loss. He gave up 11 runs on the Marlins.
Couldn't even get his words out there. It was embarrassing. No doubt about it. It was embarrassing. And hopefully they get a chance to bounce back against the New York Yankees. Now, the 4-game series, it was 2 at home, 2 on the road. Those games got postponed, the home game, so we don't know if there's going to be double headers or anything like that at this point, so we'll see. But I need to see this baseball team back on the diamond. I'm missing baseball already. I am. I'm missing baseball already. Well, we have the Flyers and the Sixers, and we do have those teams playing. But I want my baseball. Now, remember, this episode of Sports Talk with Broads is sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power. And with over 20 years of experience, they are home to your solar experts. Their information to get $0 electric bills, it's in the description. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I will see you next time.